All right, everyone, what's up? Welcome back to the Super Theory podcast. It's been a minute, but we're back today with some updates. COVID times are a little weird. With me, as always, is Chris Green, my co-host. How's it going, dude?
What's up, man? I'd like to think in another universe we would have done three podcasts a week.
Oh my God, me too. I, uh, what a weird time. Uh, you
Yeah.
know, and I say that because like I don't want to be one of those podcasts who just like is just trying to make filler. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We like to
Uh,
wait on actual news breaking and then speculate from there.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, man, we got some stuff to talk about today. Today's episode 12. It's titled "Race to the Multiverse." Looks like DC and Marvel uh, pretty much just engaged in their own little competition. They both saw what they were doing, and now we're trying to see who can get there first.
Yeah, I kind of remember back in 2000 and when did Man of Steel come out? 2013.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I
believe
remember
so.
thinking, oh my God, that'd be crazy once we heard the rumors, Henry Cavill and Christian Bale potentially showing up in the same movie, and then all of a sudden everyone remembers the Crisis on Infinite comic. If you haven't, you should check that out. And so that was kind of my first inkling of wow, they could really connect these stories beyond just maybe like a Easter egg that we see or a post-credit scene that we had kind of seen in previous movies that maybe hint at a sequel, etc. And then here we are, 12 years later, or sorry, 7 years later,
Yeah,
gonna get kind of what we want from both entities.
yeah, and it's kind of crazy. Going over these notes, like you're totally right. Marvel has been in the game for 10 years and they're just getting there. DC started a little late, but they got to their multiverse in the TV spectrum. I mean, they've been there already, basically, and also set it up. And then, we've talked about it before, but their Crisis on Infinite Earths ended with Ezra Miller's Flash meeting Grant Gustin's Flash and basically crossing over the movie and TV worlds first, which is kind of interesting because Marvel had Netflix and had the Defenders, which continually talked about the events of Avengers, but never made the jump.
Yeah, it was sort of like they wanted to tease it, uh, Marvel, I mean, and even with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they sort of
Mm-hmm.
dabbled in it and then took a step back, and then I think eventually got to where, yeah, okay, different universes, and here's what happened with Thanos' snap. But yeah, I think that I didn't pay a lot of attention except just sort of watching YouTube recap videos with what CW was doing. And
Right.
then the minute I heard Ezra Miller showed up in it, I immediately paid way more attention to, oh, wow. So am I going to have to go back and rewatch everything?
Right.
I haven't, but it just got my excitement a lot more.
Yeah, and honestly, the biggest thing that came out of that is Grant Gustin gave Ezra Miller the name the Flash. Like up until
Yep.
that point, he wasn't called anything. They just knew that literally Bruce Wayne's only words were "So you're fast," and
Right.
he was just
Yep,
known as
you're right.
Barry.
Yeah, and we're basically looking at two comic book entities going completely different ways about it. I mentioned where Marvel kind of dabbled in it, but from strictly speaking the movie side of it, um, we haven't seen DC start that way. Obviously, I mentioned the CW
Mm-hmm.
and their TV shows connecting. So maybe they were kind of seeing if their audience had a flavor for it. Whereas Marvel's technique has obviously been a long 10-year, 12-year now run trying to world build. And it looks like we're going to get multiverse in both cases, but I wanted to ask, which way did you prefer? I didn't know if you watched the CW Arrowverse a
You
lot.
know,
I mean, looking back, which one do you think was a better way to set it up?
I don't know, cause like here's the thing. I when the Flash got on Netflix, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to watch it, and I think I got through like maybe the first 3 or 4 seasons, but it was
Yeah,
so a young adult drama with
right,
the the idea of the Flash, and I mean it's a network TV show. I mean they did what they
right,
could, and
right.
so. when you're watching it, you're constantly wanting like more badass things to happen, right?
Right.
But
Yep.
instead, it kind of just hangs out on the cheesy side. Now, with that said, they were very comic accurate with storylines and characters and stuff like that. But like as as far as interest and action, wasn't really there for me. And that, again, that's me. I'm sure a lot of people like the CW, but uh, I was
It
I.
seemed to like fit into all their shows, like
Mm-hmm.
Supernatural or Riverdale, or
Yeah,
all of them just kind of all seem the same to me.
yeah, exactly. It's all cut from the same kind of cloth, and
Yeah.
but at the same time, the you know, I it's weird because there's not really a multiverse uh tangent in like the Netflix shows of Daredevil or Jessica Jones or any of that,
Right.
but they were incredibly better shows. Um,
And
so
that's
it's weird.
probably a budget thing, I guess.
Yes, 100%. I mean, those. There's a reason why all those CW shows look the same. It's because they have a blueprint. You know what I mean? For the most part,
Yep. Yeah.
they play with it as much as they can, but they have a blueprint, which is, kind of jumping ahead. Is really interesting to see what's going to happen because the showrunner of all those CW shows, Mark Guggenheim, is leaving to go to HBO and run the Green Lantern show, which
Right.
is, HBO Max has crazy budget money, and so
Yep.
I hope for the best, and I hope for badass things from that. But I would really hate to see that kind of thought process wasted on an HBO Max show. Do I think it's going
I
to
agree.
happen? I don't know, because HBO Max originals have been really killer. Raised by Wolves is badass. Lovecraft Country was badass. Um, there's tons of potential. I just don't know what's in Mark Guggenheim's head because all I've seen is CW shit, and it's not impressive to me personally.
But it's sort of like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's kind of the note of like a good director that worked on a small budget film, and you're like, wow, that's a really good movie. I would like to see what they could do with a larger budget.
Right.
Maybe he's able to do something with a larger budget, but as far as like you kind of mentioned, just the kind of teenage storyline angst that the Flash
Yes.
seemed to be to me,
Yep.
I just didn't like it. But you also wonder, maybe, but I'll just go back to budget. Uh, Maybe that's just gonna solve some things, or at least ease our skeptical nature of it.
Yeah, and also speaking of HBO Max, they're about to, they put on the second season of Doom Patrol, which was fucking badass. The first season was great, but the second season just as good, if not better. They're
Yeah,
also about to, they funded the third season of Titans, which they just dropped the Red Hood costume, and that thing could not be more accurate.
yeah, I agree.
They took all the best parts of it from the comics and then added a little Arkham Knight uh,
Yep.
swoosh to it, whatever you want to call it, flavor, and it looks fucking amazing. So again, tons of potential there, not only for costumes but for better actors.
Right.
Um, not that Grant Gustin is a bad actor, any of those people are, but it's just those scripts.
Well,
They
here's
were.
what you
Hmm,
also, I guess for me, once once Marvel establishes, let's say, that the majority of their multiverse is going to be movie related,
right,
that sort of holds those characters that show up in those movies. They absolutely are tied to that storyline, that multiverse
right,
set. Whereas DC kind of has the options that they're not necessarily tied to, including like the Titans show, let's say, does not have to appear now in whole story form with Zack Snyder's universe or Matt
right,
Reeves' universe. They can just sort of pop in and out in a
right.
way that Ezra Miller just popped in, and all of a sudden it got fans that hadn't been watching Arrowverse crossover a little bit more excited about it. So that's maybe a benefit that Marvel doesn't get by not including any of their TV shows. I mean, maybe they surprise us and uh, let the Punisher come over or Daredevil come over. But as of right now, I think that's a benefit that DC can have to bring in those side fans that Marvel doesn't.
Yeah, I did just read recently. I believe the 29th was of this month. In a few days, Daredevil reverts back to Marvel from Netflix. So every one of those other characters is on the way, and that's perfect timing for Spider-Man 3 if they want to bring Matt Murdock in as a lawyer for Peter.
Right.
Uh, I mean, all the potential is there, and I mean, the thing is, they're also listening to the fans too. You don't bring Jamie Foxx back as another version of Electro without, clearly seeing that people want to see like Andrew, Toby, and Tom. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And so, and Kevin Feige's really good about listening, and HBO Max is doing all the listening that Kevin Feige has basically done. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Uh,
I think that's the openness that Kevin showed from the beginning. It seems
right.
like,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the people that are not in charge anymore with DC kind of fought against at the
Right.
beginning, leading to the whole Zack Snyder debacle.
Right.
Now that they see that everybody wants it, it really has opened up. A lot of people thought, well, the Snyder specific fans are spoiled and they're poison. They're sort of like the Star Wars fans. Even though I disagree with that, Star Wars is like the worst subset of angry fans that you can have.
Oh my God, no shit.
Um, but it kind of benefits DC as a whole because now it's going to open up their, I think, storytelling ability and not having to basically throw the baby out with the bathwater and start all the way over. They at least
Right.
have a template now that Zack Snyder is going to be able to absolutely set a base with.
And you asked earlier about what's my favorite kind of way that each one of them has kind of shown into the multiverse or whatever.
Yeah,
Honestly, again, I'm biased, but I don't give a fuck. Zack Snyder did it perfectly with showing the Flash in BBS
yeah,
and showing the Nightmare World, showing him contacting Bruce. Like, it's just, again, we could go on and on, and I could go on and on about Zack Snyder and how visionary he is and blah blah blah. But like, it was amazing. You know what I mean? Like, visually
yeah. The people that
stunning.
were confused by it is because he didn't get to finish his fucking view.
Right.
Like he didn't get to finish the story or show his whole story. So by the time we get to see that whole thing, it's going to make way more sense. I saw an interview that he did. I think it was part of that round table, or not round table, the panel that he did when he first made mention that he originally had planned for Lois Lane to die after Darkseid boom tubes into the Batcave or
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, he kind of went more into detail about the nightmare scene, or maybe I'm remembering his live watch where he was discussing Batman vs Superman. But either way, he said that he toyed around with the idea, and I don't know if he shot it or maybe had it past storyboards, where uh, Cyborg was going to be the one that sends Flash back in time, but he was going to have 2 points uh, to tell Flash to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And after the events all happened, he was going to be able to mention one of the time points, which was what we saw in the nightmare scene. But Bruce Wayne corrects him and says, no, 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 choose the other one because that one already happened.
Right.
And so if that got to happen, and we got to see that, it would show even more the time travel aspect of it. And how, yeah, if Cyborg's in charge of it, he wouldn't just randomly send somebody back too early. There would be a reason for that.
Right. I mean, and you've got a mother box laying out the blueprint in Cyborg,
Right,
and
right.
and I'm sure we'll get into the Snyder Cut later and more and whatever. But with the other announcements that have been made and confirmed, with Jared Leto coming back as Joker and Deathstroke Joe coming back as Deathstroke, uh, we're gonna get to see this world laid out and flourish exactly how he planned it, right? And
Right,
one that you don't invest $70 million in a series that's going to be a one-off.
right,
You know what I mean? Like, this thing has all the legs to go forward. There have been people that have said, it's all contingent on the Snyder Cut doing well, which you have to be a fucking idiot to think that it's not going to do well.
right.
Um, I mean, it couldn't go any better right now. You know what I mean? Fingers crossed, knock on wood, knock on glass, all the shit, whatever you believe in. But I mean, it's so cool because and by the way, small but huge point. Fabian Wagner couldn't come back as director of photography, so the director of the movie is also the director of the photography. Zack Snyder is doing all of the filming as the director as well.
Yep.
So you want to talk about true vision? You're literally getting what he wants people to see, plain and simple,
Yep.
which is fucking incredible. And
Yeah, for
I,
him to really have full creative control,
yeah,
it's
and,
such a benefit.
and it's I mean, I cannot see them not wanting Zach for more, and to at least finish it out. Maybe some Ben Affleck Batman. We all got our fingers crossed for all that kind of stuff, but we're gonna get it either way. I mean, all the cards are in the right place. You know what I mean? Like everything is just spot on perfect right now. Even with COVID, he has the world in the palm of his hand. He's going to be the only guy next year with two fully fleshed out projects coming to streaming, and it's fine because everyone wants to see him. You get to see all the Army of the Dead stuff on Netflix. He's going to be the king
Mm.
over there, and he's going to be the
Yep.
king of HBO Max with fucking Justice League. I mean, it's just I know you and I have talked for a long time about God, we want the Snyder Cut. I mean, ever since it started, that's all we wanted. And
Yep.
not only, and again, I'm probably speaking for tons and tons of people, not only to get it, but get this fucking plethora of material. You know what I mean?
Well,
And
just the extra, because I remember when he announced it, I mean, Heroic Hollywood and all the trade sites were like, there's not any additional footage being shot.
yeah,
And we were kind of, I remember speculating like, well,
there's no way
why would they invest this just to have him CGI the rest of his movie?
for editing and for yeah,
Right.
exactly. I mean, and then you get the bigger picture of things and you're
Right.
like, oh yeah, it's well over 30 million. It's in fact 70 million and counting. You know what I mean?
Yep. Yep.
And he yeah, I've I'm gonna retread some stuff that people have already talked about on other places, and I'm sorry I'm not quoting anyone directly, but I just want to expand on it because it's so true. uh, you don't get an Oscar winner like Jared Leto to come back for what, maybe 30 minutes of additional footage that's being added, uh, unless he is talked into it in all the right ways after getting dragged to the fucking floor of what happened to Suicide Squad.
Right.
And I, I, I personally think it makes more sense timeline wise, and especially for an audience that might be confused in some ways. But I mean, obviously, there's a giant fan base who knows exactly what's going on, but there's also these complete other group of people who are just going to be interested because it is what it is, and be like, okay, well, how does Suicide Squad fit into this? I honestly believe Air Cut should come first because unless they're trying to play it like Pulp Fiction and give you the full Justice League, and then rewind back to be like, well, how did we get here? And show us what Suicide Squad should have been, and then maybe David Ayer gets everyone back for his additional footage for the real ending that should have happened. Again, speculation, and so it's
Well,
like that, back and forth.
are you willing to pay? All right, so you've got 70 million committed to Zack Snyder.
Hmm.
You do that because he already had multiple movies under his helm with these characters, um, and you know that it's a template basically to start fresh moving forward. If that comes out, what was it, September of next year or something like that?
I don't know. I feel
So,
like it's all over the map, and I feel like if you're
okay.
Zack Snyder, you want to get it out there as soon as possible because everyone's been waiting so long for this in general.
Well, let's say that is the case. Let's say he can release it in summer or spring or whatever. The fact they haven't even announced Ayer tells me that uh, I don't think that they're going to be willing to, and this is speculation, of course, anything can happen. I've been wrong multiple times on this topic. I don't see them investing that money for basically a story that is self contained, that they're paying Zack Snyder to correct a timeline for.
Hmm.
Because like the things that maybe Ayer wanted to do in it, I think that Snyder is going to address and rewrite over and establish a timeline period for. So you can have Suicide Squad in the current cut that it is, right? and leave it how it is, and then include a lot more Joker into Zack Snyder's, and just look at the Suicide Squad like, all right, it wasn't a Joker centric movie. It was a squad centric movie. They kind of harped on in Birds of Prey, her and Harley being done, or Joker and Harley being done. You don't need to necessarily retread by showing more Jared Leto in that if you're paying Zack Snyder to give you more Jared Leto. So I think it's a calculated risk. Just say it's a self-contained movie. It is what it is. But moving forward, we're going to have more Jared Leto.
I completely see your point. I will counter with the fact that recently, uh, well, way back when, once the film was completed, even David Ayer's cut, it was owned by Warner Brothers, and he had no way to put anything out. It was in Warner Brothers ownership. He couldn't
Okay.
get a hold. He couldn't get his hands on it. Blah blah blah. Last week or the week before, I don't remember exactly, he put out a tweet saying he just got to rewatch his cut and it was exactly what he thought it was. It was fire. It was the tone of the first Comic Con trailer. He's like, I thought maybe I fucked up and maybe it was really, bad and that's why it didn't get out, but that's bullshit. It's exactly what I thought it was. Uh,
So you think it's a fully done movie?
I don't think it's fully done. I think his version
I'm
that he
asking, is it an unnecessary? Let's just say it's just $10 million for him to finish his version, go back, edit. He wouldn't probably get the benefit of any reshoots, obviously.
I
Let's
don't
just say
think
that's the case. Is that $10 million worth it if you're going to already pay Zack Snyder for more Joker content in his
yes.
movie?
Yes.
Okay.
Because and I say that because Zack Snyder getting to direct Jared Leto as Joker will probably blow the lid off every motherfucker who talks shit about Jared Leto as the Joker in the first place and be like, okay, now I really want to see what it was intended for him in the first place.
Well,
Because
I
it,
think that, okay, I agree with that part. I think the context of my question is forcing the Ayer cut prior to Snyder's cut.
oh, okay,
Because
I
I
see what you're
think that
saying.
if you can really get a good Leto extra footage and he knocks out of the park like he probably will with Snyder, that if you then generate buzz around Joker, you're going to get a lot of fan movement, even more than there already is, to see the Ayer cut, I think.
I agree with that. I think I think that's probably a good move too. I do think the Air cut has enough movement behind it. I mean, they've definitely made some noise. Um, but you may be right. People getting to see that, it may push HBO Max over the edge to be like, okay, let's put this other shit out because they definitely want more of this, and we can hold
Yeah,
them
because
over until Justice League 2 gets out.
yeah, and you probably wouldn't get a lot of new subscribers to HBO Max just simply from adding the Ayer cut to it.
Right.
But you would keep people on the platform longer.
Right. Yeah.
You
Especially
wouldn't
if it
have
was
to deal with
exclusive.
the yeah, you wouldn't have to deal with the month-to-month buying that somebody may do for the Snyder Cut if you were also like, all right, and the Ayer Cut comes in a couple months also.
Right. It may entice people to stick around because Justice League 1 will probably not kill Joker. From what it sounds like, he's going to be in the Nightmare World, which I'm super excited to see, like a crazy,
Right.
long-haired, bearded,
Oh, dude, so
Nightmare
badass.
World Joker. You know what I mean? Like just,
Right.
I mean, you thought Ayers was crazy. What do you see this fucking dude looking like a wildling out of Game of Thrones? You know what I mean?
And he'd have like his own gang with him, and they'd be all
Yeah.
fucking wild. Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome to see how basically we get to see how Batman survives and thrives in his tactical gear, nightmare
And
gear, and it would be
yeah,
interesting to see how the Joker has like, these rough-shotted cars that he's put together with, metal sheets on the top, and it would be like a Mad Max.
I mean, and there's pretty much, I mean, in my mind, no question. Obviously, it looks, and with the actual fate of the world, like Joker, Deathstroke, and Batman are working together. And if you don't want to see
Right.
that, you're fucking dumb.
Oh, dude, it'd be so awesome because it
I
would be
mean,
the
it'd be,
tentative relationship of Joker and Batman
I mean,
trusting
what a
each other.
dynamic.
Right. It'd be awesome.
Something so big that it puts everything that the Joker and Batman have been through to the side.
Well, and I guess back to the multiverse portion of this, We always get
Oh, I
sidetracked with
know, I
Snyder
know,
Cut
I know,
stuff.
I know.
But with the multiverse version of it, I guess really it's the Flash's standalone where we're really, because with the news with Michael Keaton, that we're going to really see DC's first real jump movie wise into the multiverse. Do you think cameo wise the possibilities of getting to see Michael Keaton kind of, you know, supersedes or jumps over maybe potentially seeing like a Hugh Jackman showing up in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness as a cameo?
Do I
Because I
think
think
it'll
we'll get to see
supersede
more
it?
with, well, yeah, I think we'll get to see more of Michael Keaton than we would potentially Hugh Jackman.
Possibly, but I feel like, with the talk of Hugh Jackman, that's, I mean, you're gonna get Deadpool in there too, and then you're really serving the fans,
Right. That's true.
especially Ryan Reynolds, who's been like, just come back for one and be in a movie with me as Wolverine. I'll be Deadpool. I mean, let's just fucking give it to him. And
Right.
from the sounds of it, maybe Feige was able to push it over the edge for Hugh, where he's like, all right, this is a crazy idea. I've already been in a fucking. By the way, you want to talk about multiverse? X Men did it first.
Yep. You're right.
I mean,
Yep.
and so you got a Wolverine who's already been part of like three different worlds.
Well, do you think? I also saw someone mention that what if Marvel, or I'm sorry, what if Fox or Sony Marvel characters came back into the Marvel universe, the one that we currently have, but they played different characters? Because I saw a lot of Hugh Jackman not necessarily playing Wolverine, but coming back to play a different superhero or a different role altogether.
I think
I
that
don't
would.
like that idea.
I think that would be a huge disservice to the fans, and I
Right.
think
Okay.
I
I'm
think
with you.
Feige's smart enough to not do that.
But also, you would basically have to go to a universe and a time in that universe where Wolverine's still alive. But this
Correct.
is the story where Hugh Jackman has said in multiple interviews it would have to be the type of story that he couldn't say no to, and then that evolved into I told the story I wanted, and that was a good end for Wolverine. So for
Mm-hmm.
him to be even in the conversation to come back, even if it is a cameo, has to be something with Ryan Reynolds. And well, I mean, speaking of Ryan Reynolds, if we get to see Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern in Zack Snyder's, it probably would be the fourth quote unquote episode
Yeah.
of the miniseries. Would
Yeah.
that be like a, because Green Lantern wasn't well received as we've talked about before, but
Right.
would getting to see that kind of be on the same radar as Hugh Jackman as Wolverine?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I want it.
Talking about Zach having the world in the palm of his hand, Ryan Reynolds kind of does too. I mean, he got to come back as another version of Deadpool and make billions, $1 billion. And
Yeah,
it wasn't the same Deadpool that was in Wolverine Origins. So you can have Ryan Reynolds come back as Green Lantern, but not the Green Lantern he played in the, what was it, 2011 movie or whatever. He
right.
gets, it's basically a restart, and gets to play a Hal Jordan that, again, people directed under Zack Snyder are, you know, get to really show the character that they want to be. I mean, I think we've
And it
said
would
it
have to be
before.
a multiverse character. It could not be just that's Hal Jordan in the same connective tissue universe, because he would have.
Well, the idea that I read, and again, not trying to steal anybody's info, just re-reporting it, is that he would have been Green Lantern for a while and been out policing the galaxy, and was actually able to come back because of Steppenwolf and Darkseid have created, a big
Okay, so
enough
it would be the
alarm.
same Hal Jordan.
It would be the same Hal Jordan, but it would be a different version of Hal Jordan than what you got in the
A more
for.
experienced Hal Jordan.
Yes, yes,
Okay, I
yes.
see.
Not probably nowhere near as comical. Uh,
Right,
you know what I mean? Like a guy, a tried and true Lantern who's been through it.
right. Okay. Yeah, I'm all for it, man. Ryan Reynolds and everything is good to me.
Yeah,
So
I
he's worth seeing at least, and you just want, that's what's funny about, you had the pushback initially, you had the craze of the superhero movies, and then Marvel got on their run, and then you got like a lot of big actors that came out and they were like, these are just silly superhero movies, and now it's kind of turned to Oh yeah, I would like a role in that.
Yeah, I think Ryan Reynolds getting to retcon Green Lantern like he got to do Deadpool would probably mean more to his career than any Oscar or any award he might win one day. Uh,
Yeah, because would you even mention the version of Suicide Squad that we saw if we get to see a real Jared Leto performance in
nope,
Justice League?
nope. It would
Exactly.
be. I feel like that would be erased just like Justice League would be. I mean, everyone would be like, "Oh,
Or the
fuck those
Hulk
movies."
early movies where Eric Bana was in it, or Edward Norton. No
Yeah,
one goes back and watches those because
right,
now we have the
exactly.
Hulk that we like.
And again, I love Edward Norton, and I don't feel like he should have been
Agreed.
recast.
Yep,
But
I
it
agree.
is what it is, and I hate using that term, but it really is.
Yep.
Uh, but yeah, I, I think it would be the biggest icing on the cake for Ryan Reynolds if he got to retcon Green Lantern, like he got to do
Yep.
Deadpool. I mean, that would it would just it's almost seems like destiny. You know what I mean?
Now, are you able to do that and distance yourself from Jeff Johns?
Yes. From what I've read, Jeff Johns, uh,
He was an executive producer on the Green Lantern movie.
that's right, of the movie, he doesn't
Right.
own the intellectual property, so he doesn't
Okay.
own Green Lantern, so he doesn't get anything for that.
Okay.
From what I understand.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then all aboard because it does seem like they're distancing themselves from him, at least on the public side of everything.
Yes.
I don't know if he'll get to stay producer on the Green Lantern TV show or not, or some sort of writer's credit or something.
You know, he really kind of screwed himself, and it's gonna play out. I think I think Jason Kilar and Ann Sarnoff at the two main executives of Warner Brothers are extremely smart in what they're doing and what they're allowing to happen and work with, and I think they are not that stupid to let these mistakes carry on and possibly happen again.
Right.
I mean, they got internal investigations going on right now for Justice League anyway, and other
Right.
stuff that's happened. So I feel like they're going to distance these people as much as they need to,
Yep. I agree.
if they're smart, which they seem to be.
Yeah. I mean, we keep saying everything hinges on Zack Snyder, but it's the first step in showing us that we're going to get a competent level of ownership at the DC level.
Right. Uh,
So,
and you know what it's really interesting to me is it feels like again you know being a visionary like Zach, he's given us all these crazy movies. 300, Man of Steel. Stop, Carrie. Sorry, my dog's making some noises. Hey. Man of Steel, 300, Batman versus Superman, Dawn of the Dead. He's a big picture guy, and
right.
so making two gigantic projects for two streaming services and not worrying about a movie like a big budget movie, he's I he's it seems like he's at the forefront like he was at all other things of seeing what streaming can be and getting there first.
Right.
Because it seems like, even though Justice League may come out a little later than like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he definitely sees what it can be and not just an avenue to make side stories that connect to bigger things. He's
Yeah, I
making a
agree.
bigger thing on the thing that's usually used for side stuff, it seems.
Right.
And I think
Yeah,
that's
I mean,
incredibly smart.
yeah, I agree. Where Marvel has the benefit of obviously a very well established groupings of movies, which based on all the reports we see with Spider-Man, gonna dip back to the Tobey Maguire world of Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
shows you how long people care about those style movies. Where we can bring up Spider-Man 3 being trash because of Tobey Maguire dancing, and that
Yes.
was an interesting choice for him to do.
Yeah,
But we
I'd
don't
love to
talk
know that.
about it. We don't talk about it in the visceral way that we do Green Lantern,
Right.
um, the Superman Returns with Brandon Ruth.
Yep.
We just don't talk about it in the same manner. So they do have the benefit there, and also this is a well-rounded story. Where would DC be if they had already dealt with the Dark Side saga, and now
Mm-hmm.
we were looking future into well, now who's playing the next Batman? We're still answering questions of, oh, well, is Matt Reeves' universe going to tie in somewhere? If
Right,
they're working through a, Crisis on Infinite Earths in a movie form, maybe it should.
right.
But yeah, it would just be weird to see if the roles were reversed. Because remember, those early Marvel movies beyond Tobey Maguire that were like, you know,
Fantastic Four.
real, yeah, I mean, those were really trash.
Right. Uh,
That seems almost like where DC is. It's just up in the timeline.
they had they had these cool, and we shouldn't say they're all trash because again, Spider-Man 1 and 2 great for their time. Spider-Man
Right.
2, the first Spider-Man 2, uh, looked at as one of the best and revered comic book movies of all time. I mean, they had a
Yep.
great actor who played, I forgot his name, maybe Alfred Molina or whoever, who played Doctor Ock.
Yeah, Doc
Uh,
Ock. Yeah.
I mean, that was good movie, you know.
Right.
Um, and then
Oh, when you said Fantastic Four, I wasn't meaning that Fantastic Four. I meant like the one from like the 70s.
oh yeah yeah yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
where you had like Lou
gotcha.
Ferrigno playing the Hulk also. I know a lot of people like that, but if that was your jumping off point and now all of a sudden you're like, all right, no, really, we're going to have a universe started, you would be like, all right, but look at these movies.
Right, right, right. No, I
Right.
get you. I thought you were just going back to like the first Spider Mans and even X Men. I mean, X Men was pretty ahead of its time. I think they could have made better costume choices overall and been more comic accurate. But you know,
Right.
Brian Singer.
Well, yeah, I'm sure the budget, if we go look at the budget for X-Men 1, it's probably, it gets dwarfed by what they did for like Days of Future Past.
But they nailed the casting for the most
100%.
part.
And that's
I
and that's even with so that's when a superhero movie at that time gets the benefit of the doubt because if an actor like Hugh Jackman at that size gets cast now for the Wolverine after what we've expected
mm,
from what Hugh Jackman eventually ended up with Wolverine, we
mm,
would skewer him.
yes.
We'd be like, "Oh
Uh,
no, that guy's too small."
Same with Val Kilmer playing Bruce Wayne, Batman. I mean, when he's got his shirt off
100%.
in the Batcave, I mean, he might as well be an Olympic swimmer or a beginner.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
That's not a guy who beats the shit out of people.
No, he had 90s guy body.
That's right.
Yeah.
But speaking back to the perfect casting of X Men, I mean, listen, Patrick Stewart, you don't get better than that. As
No, I
far
agree.
as, Professor, Doctor, or what's his name, Xavier,
Yeah.
uh, Charles Xavier, yeah. Uh, my God, I mean, perfect.
Yep. Perfect.
Femke, I think that's how you say her name, Femke Jansen or whatever, that played Jean Grey.
Yep.
I absolutely loved her. I still love
Yep.
her, but I loved her in that role. I thought she was a badass Jean Grey.
Yep.
Um, Not a fan of the girl from True Blood who played Rogue. Um,
She was just kind of awkward, I think, but because I guess we only compared Rogue to. Did you watch the X-Men animated?
yeah, that's exactly what I compared it to.
Yeah, it just seemed like a interesting choice for her
Hmm.
to go real like super awkward.
Yeah, but James Marsden as Cyclops, great.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't like Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth. I definitely love the guy from the very first X-Men who played Sabretooth. That
Oh,
guy
you do? Okay.
was super comic accurate, especially for the cartoon.
Yes,
Like
he was way more accurate.
the costume, the design of his hair, his face, the teeth, the nails. I mean, that looked like the Sabretooth I was expecting.
Yep.
Um,
Yep. I agree.
but anyways, yeah, going from that to now, and talking about these multiverse characters, um, I heard someone saying it would be, or someone made it may have even been a meme or something of like Toby coming back, but Toby, even though he plays Peter Parker in the first Spider-Man, would be like Uncle Ben in Tom Holland's because of how young Marissa Tomei is.
Oh, that would be so shitty.
Yeah, be weird.
Because I think that you have a template with the Spider-Verse animated movie that just came out, where
Yes.
you can have a Peter Parker from another universe, and he either dies or he's passed the mantle along,
Mm-hmm.
or you can have any number. I saw where that's how potentially they could introduce a Miles Morales from another universe is he was handed over the reins from Tobey Parker or from Tobey Maguire, but we already know that the Prowler already exists in Tom Holland's universe, and the Prowler, is the uncle of Miles Morales.
Right.
So we know he exists in this universe.
Yeah, and I really see Miles as a young Spider-Man definitely is a Disney development. I don't think that comes from another Sony
Yeah,
universe out of nowhere.
yeah, I agree. I agree. This is really, I guess we debated in the past of, not on the podcast, but, or maybe a little bit, where Sony's, where the benefit lies for Sony and Marvel's mutual profiting after Tom Holland basically had to say, you know, please, or make
Yeah.
a deal.
Yeah.
And what Sony's going to be able to do now that the multiverse is in full run is there could be, for real, another Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire. Who
Right.
wouldn't want to see a standalone movie with Tobey as he's now an older Spider-Man?
Right.
I'm watching it.
Yep. I think me and you talked about this last time maybe, but I'd love to see Andrew Garfield uh,
Yep.
get some redemption because I feel like he just got the short end of the stick. Um, same
Because he's a
for
good actor to me.
yeah, he is, and he and Emma Stone really had some. I mean, they were dating at the time, but they had really good chemistry as Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker.
Yep, I agree.
And I also think it would be awesome for Disney to redeem Shailene Woodley as Mary Jane in his world because she got it cut out of that whole movie.
Yep. Yep.
I mean, that's kind of crazy to me. I saw a movement for like the Mark Webb cut of the Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I don't really know if I care enough to see it. I would definitely probably watch it, but I don't know if I'd join a movement for it.
Right.
Um, but it's interesting because Jamie Foxx is coming back as the same
Right.
character, just in a different world.
Yeah. So I was going to ask about that. Do you think it's Jamie Foxx in a different costume, obviously, still
It
playing the
fucking better
same
be.
character name,
I mean, is
but
there
he
another
he's
Electro?
no, no, no. There's not. But he's going to be playing the same character name, right? But the Electro of a different universe, separate from the Electro we saw in the Amazing Spider-Man.
I mean, that,
Because then you don't have to necessarily include Andrew Garfield.
yeah, I
He's
don't
got to
know.
be the same one, right? That I don't like the idea of him all of a sudden just having a super comic accurate to where everyone comic accurate outfit. Uh, because then you may get the speculation of, well, is that the same one? And is Andrew Garfield going to recognize this Electro? Because I know there were a lot of theories in the final fight where he basically electrified himself into nothing, that he
Right.
transported himself to another multiverse.
See, that's what I don't understand is how I mean, he basically exploded into like a bunch of electricity, right?
Right.
But there was no portal or anything for him to go to travel to a different timeline.
Right.
So I'm I'm super interested to see how that plays out
Yep.
because it's one thing if like Doctor Strange opens some portals or whatever, and Andrew Garfield gets into Tom Holland's world and
Yep.
uh, recognizes Max, but maybe he looks different,
Yep.
and
Yep.
but he's like that's the same guy, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Also, I totally see a storyline where Doctor Strange brings in another Spider-Man from another world to clear Tom Holland's Peter Parker's name to be like, all right, well, here's Peter Parker and here's Spider-Man. This is Spider-Man doing stuff. This is Peter Parker just being a teenager.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, I did see an interesting theory, and maybe we're referencing the same one, where because we've introduced scrolls within a Spider-Man movie,
mm-hmm.
um, they could shapeshift into Spider-Man while Tom Holland stays as Peter Parker to prove that point.
Right, and they owe Nick Fury. So
Yep.
that's definitely a possibility. I was thinking more of like, I mean, I was thinking more along the lines of the real Andrew Garfield Spider-Man comes through and is able to do Spider-Man stuff. Because it's one thing if you're gonna have a scroll shapeshift. It's another thing to actually have Spider-Man abilities, right?
That's true, yeah. How tall is
So,
Andrew Garfield compared to Tom Holland, or would that matter?
don't know. Probably
He
might
seems
matter.
taller.
Yes, he's definitely taller. He's like 6'3".
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
He's a really tall, lanky Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, but yeah, there's just so much that could possibly happen, and I'm pretty excited. I'm very excited for Sam Raimi to direct Doctor Strange. I just watched. I've never watched the. Sorry if you think less of me, people. I've never watched the first The Evil Dead till last night. Me and the lady watched it, and he wrote and directed the very first one from the '70s, right? He wrote and
Right.
directed that Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness. Uh, I mean, he's got horror in his blood,
Oh,
uh,
100%.
for sure. And and that was done in like the early 1973 or something like that. I don't know. Uh, and
Because
now
that's
it's
the most serious of the Evil Dead movies out of all of them. You
yes,
don't really get to see the Bruce Campbell that we know until like the latest one that came out, where he's a
right,
lot more campy and all that stuff.
playing into the character of himself,
Right.
kind of.
Yep.
But I mean, this dude knows how to do horror, and he knows how to do creepy, and
Yep.
you know, coming from 1970 something to 2020 with everything that he's gotten to do and get better at. I mean, and now he has the biggest. And by the way, did the first Spider-Mans, and I just I feel like Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness has the most potential to probably be a the biggest genre breaking comic book movie so far.
You think so?
I think it'll redefine. I think it has a very good. I don't think it will. I don't know, but it definitely has the potential to redefine everything because of
Yep.
just how wild Sam Raimi could go with it, not just being a comic book, but also being horror. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I think that's probably going to be such a badass movie.
Yeah. You know, as far as defining movies coming up, as far as how we're going to see the landscape, we're all going to be able to speculate like we speculate on Multiverse of Madness, Spider-Man, and Zack Snyder's cut. But those really are the three movies to me that are going to set in stone, besides WandaVision, because I think they're going to do some stuff in that, where the speculation will be out the window. We're going to really start seeing some characters. Because I don't think in I still think we're kind of far, going back to the multiverse, of seeing different versions of characters within DC than we are Marvel.
Yeah, I would
Because I
agree.
know that we're going to get Michael Keaton, obviously, and his interaction, but beyond that, I don't think we're going to get, a second Wonder Woman anytime soon, or Aquaman, or anybody like that. But I think
No,
we're
I
going to
don't
get a
think so
plethora
either.
of characters in Marvel.
Yeah, I mean they're already. I mean, not only do they have previous characters like Andrew and Toby, but they got new ones coming up in like the Young Avengers, and they've already talked about seeing different versions of different characters in the multiverse. With the biggest prime example being Tom Cruise being Tony Stark. So you get to see characters that never were, that may just show up for a one-off versus
Which, are
like
you excited for Young Avengers?
no, not yet.
I mean, not at all.
No, I honestly, I'd rather see some X Men stuff happen, and some. I'd rather see some comic accurate X Men and Fantastic Four stuff happen before I see Young Avengers.
Yeah, I know. It just feels like maybe I just feel that way because there was such a sweeping change of no more Tony Stark or no
Mm-hmm.
more Downey Jr. and no more Chris Evans.
Yeah,
So maybe
I,
it's that. That's why I feel that way.
I'm definitely interested to see Blade though. I think Marshall Ali is gonna be fucking awesome. Uh, I'm interested to
Yeah, and I
see.
know we speculated on Keanu as Deacon Frost. Man, that would be
Oh my
fucking
god.
insane.
Yeah, especially if Keanu Reeves is like a known motorcycle guy. I mean, he has his own
Yep.
motorcycle company, so
Yep.
definitely potential for him to be Ghost Rider and kill it. But
Yep.
yeah, seeing him as a villain, I think would just be a lot of fun. He's always been, for the most part, the good guy. I think he did a little horror movie with some girls. I forgot what the movie's called, where he kind of played a bad guy. But to see him really flex a villain tone and get
Well,
to
would
be
you
the
want
bad
him
guy,
used like a Deacon Frost type villain, or would you rather reserve him for some other larger villain?
I love Keanu, so I'll take as much as I can get. I would hate for him to be shortchanged and just be a one-off villain. Uh,
Yeah.
I That's how I feel about Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. I think the biggest travesty was killing him off.
Yep.
Um,
I agree.
he was so good, and I don't think he treat that guy as a one-off villain. I think you keep him around. So worst case, you get like say you get Ben Affleck's Batman movie or series, maybe he comes back and you get to see him in like a prequel style, which I would die for. That would be amazing. Uh,
Yeah, that would be awesome.
but I think it's travesty he got killed off. Super funny, but
For sure.
I'd like to see him around more. But I think you do the same thing with Keanu. I think you keep him around.
Yeah, I agree. Okay.
He's a moneymaker. It's John Wick.
Yeah, because I liked, you know, I'm blanking on the actor's name that played the first Deacon Frost.
Oh
I
yeah,
only seen him in the original,
the
like,
blue cigarette commercial
electronic.
guy.
Yeah, the blue cigarette.
Yeah, I forgot his name
Um,
too off the top of my head.
yeah, he turned into the Blood God, and I hated that he died in the first one because I thought that was a good character.
Yeah, what was his last name? Deacon Frost?
Yeah, Deacon Frost was the character name. I'm blanking on the actor though.
Yeah, Steven Dorff. That's who it is.
Yeah, Dorf. That's right.
Yeah, he was in True Detective 3, and he was really good.
Yeah, he was
Like
a
a
pretty good actor.
dessert. That was my favorite line. They asked him if he wanted cream and sugar in his coffee, and he's like a dessert. So funny.
Well, all right. Yeah, we hopefully we're gonna get some more news coming up. I mean, I guess we could spend some time speculating, but everyone's speculating on when we'll actually get to see some stuff.
Yeah.
Because man, everything just keeps getting pushed back.
Honestly, I feel like I feel like from now till Christmas is gonna be real light. Uh, up until WandaVision comes out. Um, but I just if anything, we'll get more confirmations on people who are in Snyder Cut because filming started today. It seems.
Right.
Um, I would imagine the things I've seen and read sounds like Margot Robbie might be back. Um, Amber Heard's coming back as Mirror, which is pretty crazy.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
Seeing Viola Davis maybe come back as Amanda Waller and running the whole show out of the nightmare scenario from the Batcave. Um, uh, that sounds probably close to it. I don't know who else might show up.
Well, I did see where James Gunn said that he had been given the green light to kill anybody.
Right.
Now, I would assume Harley's out of that,
Yeah,
and
I
we know
don't.
Peacemaker's probably out of that unless it's a prequel.
Yeah, I don't. I just there's
I
no
could
way
see
you kill
Idris Elba
Harley.
dying. Yeah, I think Harley's untouchable, but Boomerang's probably going to die. A lot of the original cast, I bet, dies.
I kind of hope Boomerang stays around just for some Flash stuff. Um, but I I feel like Polka Dot Man might make it out of there because he's so oddball. Um,
Yeah, there's definitely going to be like a weak link that we expect to die.
you know,
That's gonna stick around.
even though he says he can kill anybody, I feel like you don't kill Idris Elba, you don't kill John Cena, you don't kill Harley, and
But yeah, because you
probably
could
don't
use
kill
Idris Elba's
Boomerang.
character.
What's that?
Yeah, you could use Idris Elba's character just with Superman
Oh man,
interactions.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like it's kind of, and I could be wrong, but I feel like it's pretty self evident of all the ones who would die.
Right.
You know, I feel like that rat catcher too probably won't die. but like Nathan Fillion, Pete Davidson, Javelin, all those low level ones are probably gonna bite the dust. But I
Yeah,
just
Michael Rooker, his
yeah,
character probably died.
but
He'll
I
probably
feel
die in
like
a hilarious way.
yeah, but I feel like if you're James Gunn and you kill Harley, you are banned from DC. I think you'll get
Oh yeah.
boycotted by every fucking fan.
Well, everyone will speculate that it's Marvel doing it to DC on purpose.
Right, exactly. But James Gunn is already in a spot where he'll get raked over the coals one way or another.
Well, you talk about not being able. We always speculate like how much pressure you have filling Joker's roles or Batman's roles, but think of who the next fucking Harley Quinn could be.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody.
They have a really cool character going on right now in the comics named Punchline, who's basically like Joker's new girlfriend.
Uh,
But I could totally see like Olivia Munn playing that. Um,
oh yeah, that'd be good.
I that's who I think that would be badass. But I feel like you squeeze the shit out of everything you can from Harley before you get rid of her.
Right.
But yeah, that's where we're at.
All right. Well, we'll tackle the next topic when we get it.
Yes, sir. Hopefully very soon. Thank you guys if you've been listening. If you want to hear some of our other stuff, you can find us on iTunes or YouTube. We appreciate you, and we'll be back when we can, when it's worth it. We don't want to just give you guys filler shit. But thanks again. Thank you, Chris Green, for joining me, and
No
we'll
problem.
see you next time, guys. Thanks.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
It's not who I am underneath, but what I do defines me.